Very good morning, everybody. My name is David Nabarro, and I'm very pleased indeed to be able to introduce you to this, for us, incredibly significant moment, because today is Food Day at COP29, and we are having an amazing time as we watch agriculture and food rise up the agenda and become seen as one of the most serious issues to be explored by the world as it advances its work on climate change and biodiversity. Our panel is going to reflect the work of non-state actors, as we call them, in the agriculture and food space. And this is the groundswell of actors all over the world who raise the issue and make sure that it comes to the attention of decision makers and indeed of negotiators and leaders. Without more ado, I'd like to start straight away by saying that we are overjoyed that our first speaker is Gonzalo Munoz. Now, he is a climate champion, and he was appointed a champion really some years ago, but he's become really focused and led the whole non-state actor group on food through COP28 and has brought us here to COP29. Gonzalo, you have the floor.
Thanks so much, Sir David. So first I would like to make everyone aware of where we're coming from. We're coming from a very relevant COP in Dubai, where we were successful on positioning food in the top of the agenda for the first time, not only I would say in climate, but also congregating a lot of the effort that has been done globally. And that was done through, of course, the UAE Declaration on Food and Agriculture, now being endorsed by 160 heads of states, but also because of the call to action that was led by Her Excellency Razan Al Mubarak, the climate champion for COP28, and that call to action is all about calling for non-state actors to first deliver a shared vision and a set of priority actions across production, consumption, protecting and restoring nature, and food and loss and waste. The call to action, the non-state actors food system call to action has been calling all actors to take urgent action now to transform these food systems to deliver better outcomes for people, nature, and climate. What I'm really delighted to announce is that today over 300 systems actors from farmers, businesses, civil society, consumer organizations, philanthropy, and many others have endorsed the call to action today. So it's not only about a brilliant number, but also the depth of it, what it represents. It represents a really diverse group of non-state actors and all regions of the world. So, for example, this group represents farmer organizations, represented 1.2 billion farmers, subnational government representing 2.2 billion residents, business along the agri-food value chain, all well spread around the world, with around $1 trillion in revenues, and as I said, 150 civil society and philanthropic organizations, with 1/3 of them headquartered in emerging and developing countries, operating in all regions of the world. So there is a significant representativity of this call to action in terms of who has endorsed it, and of course more organizations endorsing it day after day. But then the important thing to understand is what is motivating these people to endorse the call to action. We as farmers and farmers organizations and people working on the food sector, we know that we're no longer talking about something that might happen in the future. We're confronting the consequences of the climate crisis and the environmental crisis every single day, and that is putting under risk our capacity and ability to produce food for a growing population. We know that the risk of inaction is extremely higher and growing every day, as well as we know the amazing opportunities that a system that is working for people, for nature, and for climate represents for all of us as we move to a system that needs to be working with climate and not against it. So what we have decided is that we will focus mostly in 3 key areas. We need to scale finance. We must scale up and reorient finance to support resilient, sustainable, and equitable food systems. Second, we need to strengthen global target, action plans, and accountability. We must strengthen and implement existing global targets, action plans, strategies, and policies at all levels, and of course, accountability frameworks. And third, we need to support farmers, indigenous peoples, and local communities, as we must actively support in a meaningful way to include these critical actors in policy-making processes, with a particular focus on the role of women, youth, and of course, intergenerational equity and justice. Then, of course, we know that what comes next is an ambitious action agenda from Baku to Belém. And in that sense, we know very much that this aspect, this agenda, the food and agriculture system transformation, is also delivering concrete examples connected to other agendas. We have seen last week how strongly this agenda is connected to the methane agenda, with now that logic, the logic of reducing food waste and loss, the logic of producing with less methane, is allowing countries like the 9 Latin American countries that joined the methane pledge, with a concrete focus on reducing organic food and connecting their NDCs through national plans and legislation in that regard. We have seen the launch of the Insurance Breakthrough, an incredible tool that is totally connected to the risk of farmers and food-producing organizations all around the world, that we know that if we operate for climate and for biodiversity, we will, of course, reduce the risk of our production. And finally, there's a huge agenda coming on in the next few days with the Desertification Convention that is all about, of course, land restoration, drought resilience, and increase our capacity to produce food and increase the livelihoods of farmers around the world. So that agenda is also allowing us to strengthen the capacity of food system to be one that is providing well-being and nurturing a growing population of the world while restoring the earth. Thank you, Sir David.
Thank you very much indeed, Gonzalo. In this work, we rely on champions to show us the way. In this work, we rely on movements to raise an issue and bring it up higher on the political agenda. And Gonzalo mentioned that 160 governments signed a declaration on sustainable agriculture, resilient food systems and climate last year in Dubai. And the call to action by this incredible group of civil non-state actors has really made an enormous difference. It's about scale, it's about finance, and indeed, it's about futures for everybody. But who are the people who are most affected by climate change in today's world? Who are the people who are worst affected? It is the world's farmers. And we're honored indeed to have with us Praskovia Wichmann, who is a farmer from East Africa. She's part of a climate change action from East Africa, and she's going to tell us about her experiences in Uganda. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you so much. As you've heard, I'm Praskovia, a smallholder farmer, and from the Global South. I'm glad my colleague mentioned a few things that I had come in actually to raise. But there are two things before I start, is that we seem to be talking every year at COP. We bring ourselves and say we are putting this at the forefront. But it looks like we are talking, but we're not walking the talk. And I coming from the smallholder farmer constituency is that as the world grows the numbers, currently I think we are 8.2 billion, and according to some figures, 2040 we might be 9 billion. And all these people would need food. But what kind of food are we talking about? And that's where the smallholder farmer comes to play. We need safe, healthy food. And what is the smallholder farmer trying to do, even when we don't have the finances? And I think that's the other elephant in the room, is that the bulk of the people who are producing food globally are smallholder farmers, and yet are the poorest. Why? I'll give you an example, and hear me out. The AU, that's the African Union, 2003, they made a Maputo Declaration. This is for my own continent. And they declared and said every country in Africa would at least give 10% of its expenditure towards agriculture. As I speak, only one country, 21 years later. I want to hear you also from the climate finance. Right now, we are talking about food systems, we are talking about agriculture, and yet is peanut being put into this system. So my worry is, are we talking for the sake of talking, or we actually want to find solutions? And here is something that I would need us to also think through. If we think food and agriculture is key for this planet or for the people to live, how much are we willing to put there so that the smallholder farmer can access finance, a farmer who is in Europe can access equally, but also somebody from Brazil can access the same finance? The whole week, last week and yesterday, in some of the corridors that we went through, almost none was speaking about the farmer. I happened to enter some of the negotiation rooms, and it's like by accident when they see you are there, there's, oh, we are going to include you. We don't want cosmetic solutions. We want inclusion, which is meaningful, but also something that is tangible enough that I can go back to East Africa, to the Maasai person, Okaramojong, who is trying to have a living, but also maintain his cultural values, that he can survive in this planet. Then the other thing is that we seem also to be talking more of the commercial farmers who are accessing the funds. What about the 500 farmers, 500 million farmers? And I know those are mostly smallholder farmers across the globe. My approach here is that I know that at back home we are doing, we do agroecology, and we think agroecology is helping us to maintain our food sovereignty, but also keep the food security intact. But little even in our own governments, as I said, that even in the Maputo Declaration, where we clapped and thought it was going to solve the African solution, it didn't come up. I know that the COP28 also had something here with 200 million plus offered. I don't know how much has been dispensed so far. So as we speak now, I would want to call to action the leaders, the stakeholders, that as we speak in this global fora, as we move from one conference to the next, let's know that 2040, we shall be 9 billion. And each one of us, every month of the 9 billion would need food. But what type of food? It should be safe,
excellent,
quality food, but also accessible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you very much indeed. When you're trying to get a breakthrough on an issue, which we're seeing happening now, you need champions. Champion non-state actors, as we heard from Gonzalo, champion farmers, as Praskovia just described to us. And you need champion companies as well. And we're very pleased indeed to be joined by Owen Bethell, who is the Global Public Affairs Lead from Nestlé on the environment. And he's going to talk about the role of the private sector in advancing sustainable food systems. Owen.
Thank you very much, Sir David, and thank you to my fellow panelists with all those wonderful contributions so far. I'd like to start by agreeing with the comments that we've just heard about the need for more climate finance to go to farming, in particular smallholder farmers. And that's why Nestlé is here, really, is to call for an ambitious agreement on climate finance via the NCQG process, and for there to be a centrality around the role of farmers within that discussion. So coming out of this, we need to see more resources flowing into food systems, given that they have a huge potential to be a carbon sink and even a net carbon contributor, a positive carbon contributor, if you like, to solving the climate crisis. So it really will play a central role, and it's something that we care passionately about. We also supported the call to action in Dubai, and we look forward to taking that, to actually seeing that turn into something tangible. From a company perspective, there's really three key reasons why we do this. The first is to make our supply chains more resilient. Unfortunately, the impacts of climate change are being seen in many parts of the world when it comes to food systems. We can think of examples that are relevant to our company, like coffee and cocoa, where extreme weather events are already having an impact on availability. And that is a business issue. So if we don't address that, there are negative impacts for us, but there are also negative impacts for the farmers in our supply chains, which is basically the people that we rely on for our business. So we need to support them, and we need to support better ways of managing agriculture in the parts of the world that we rely on. Secondly, we need to meet evolving consumer needs and preferences. And we do that by offering more sustainably produced products. It's a long journey to get to a truly regenerative and sustainable food system, but we are on the way, and we want to do that in partnership with our consumers and our customers. And the third is really to navigate the landscape of regulation, which we're seeing, and we welcome that because it helps lift the bar for everybody. So we need everybody in the private sector to be contributing and to be doing the right thing. And voluntary action on its own will not do that. We need strong and well-designed regulation to get us to the next level. In terms of what we're actually doing as a company, we've committed quite some time ago to net zero. By 2050, we want to source 50% of our key ingredients from regenerative agriculture by 2030. The good news is we're on our way. We've got to at least 15% already. That was the figure at the end of last year. And we're looking forward to sourcing 20% of those ingredients by the end of next year. And when I talk about ingredients, I'm here referring to things like coffee, things like cocoa, things like milk products, which we use. We source many of those from smallholder farmers as well in developing countries. So we have a direct effect and impact there. We are doing this through providing premiums to farmers. We're supporting farm-level investments, for example, biogas digesters on farms, often in countries like Pakistan, where finance is not available from other sources, so we are providing finance directly to farms. And we're also providing technical assistance through a network of around 1,000 agronomists around the world, which Nestlé has, which is actually a unique thing that we have in the food industry, and we want to use that as a force for good. So looking ahead, we want to partner with more organizations in the value chain. So that ranges from really the really big companies who supply us with lots of ingredients down to smaller suppliers, cooperatives, for example, who manage networks of farms, often in more challenging locations. We're investing in schemes that not only meet environmental objectives, but also social ones as well, such as our Income Accelerator program in Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa, where we are supporting farmers with payments for ecosystem and social services, such as providing access to schooling for children. And we look to ramp those programs up as well by 2030. So, very good. Our sort of key takeaway from COP29 is that there needs to be more focus on food systems. There needs to be more money going into food systems. We feel like we're playing our role. There's always more that can be done, of course, and we want to call on other companies to do the same to support farmers in this transition. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed, Owen. It is great when we've got companies of your size coming in and focusing on the farmer, and indeed focusing on all aspects of the food system, because that's how we get the shift. And to help all of us come together, we've been very fortunate that Dr. Lucy Wallace, who is Director of Global Relationships in EIT Food, has put special effort into creating the environment within which collaboration can occur and clarity on how we advance the breakthrough can happen. So, Dr. Wallace, please.
Thank you, Sir David. Happy Food Day, everyone. But every day is Food Day, so I'd like to just focus a little bit on the collaboration, as Sir David said. The Action on Food Hub brings together diverse actors from across the health food value system, from farmers to policymakers, and we're tackling the critical role of food systems in climate, biodiversity and land challenges. Together, we're taking a unified approach to action on food. And that word action is really, really important, as my fellow panelist, our farmer from Uganda, has highlighted. We really need to do more action and less talking. So collaboration is essential for us to support communities that are the most vulnerable to the climate impacts, including smallholder farmers, Indigenous peoples, and local communities. And this collaboration is helping us to build resilience within the system and within the community. We know that food systems generate over a third of global greenhouse gas emissions, and they drive biodiversity loss, yet hold the solutions for a sustainable future. COP29 is a chance to unify stakeholders and drive meaningful commitments for food systems transformation. It's a critical step ahead of COP30, and we urgently need to use this opportunity to act. Together, we go further. Collaboration through the Action on Food Hub ensures that progress is both inclusive and impactful for people, nature and the planet. As the Action on Food community, we've been working in partnership with the Climate Champions, and we've developed 4 food systems asks to amplify and drive action around. These are based on the Food Systems Calls to Action, which were launched last year by the Climate Champions, as well as our own work that we've done over the past 3 years to represent a significant amount of the community at the COP. We represent a broad and diverse set of actors, and we work not just to build stronger connections between food systems, nature and the climate, but to also create those conditions which enable food systems transformation to take place and for the planet to flourish. So Gonzalo has already set out some of those food system asks, but I want to just go quickly into them in a little bit more depth. We want to scale finance. We absolutely need to mobilize at least $260 billion annually to fund resilient and equitable food systems, and these need to address adaptation, loss and damage. For governments specifically, this also includes scaling up initiatives for the conservation and sustainable use of natural resources. Financial institutions need to shift capital away from deforestation-related commodities, and businesses must share costs and diversify risks across the value system, supporting farmers to scale up sustainable and regenerative agricultural practices which build resilience to climate impacts. We need to strengthen global targets. The necessity of a global roadmap for a food systems transition which has clear targets and sets out what needs to be achieved by when means that we're advocating for updated NDCs and biodiversity strategies by 2025. And these are aligned, and these should be aligned with the SDGs, Paris Agreement, and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. We also urgently need to implement the COP28 UAE Declaration on Sustainable Agriculture, Resilient Food Systems and Climate Action. In addition, businesses must commit to setting science-based targets for climate, nature and food systems, and also to reporting progress and sharing best practice. We need to support farmers and Indigenous peoples. It's incredibly important to recognise that people are at the heart of our food system. We need to elevate the knowledge that is already there and exists, and also the contributions of both farmers and Indigenous peoples who have a deep connection to the land, whilst ensuring policies foster a just transition as well as protect livelihoods. Finally, this year, we have 3 Rio Conventions. So our 4th ask is to spotlight food systems in the Rio Conventions. We need to integrate food systems transformation into climate, biodiversity and land use frameworks which align all of our efforts across all of these sectors. Integration is incredibly important. We and the thousands of other actors in the food community urge decision makers to listen and also recognise we must take unified global action to transform food systems to deliver better outcomes for people, nature, and for the climate. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Lucy. So you need champions to help the whole community come together. You need champion farmers, you need champion companies, you need champion countries, and we'll be able to hear from them a little bit later today, if you wish. And we need champion conveners like Lucy. But we need champions in the media like yourselves. Would anybody like to ask us any questions? Sir. Could you just, I know you'll say who you are, but I just remind you in case.
Sure. Nick from Net Zero Tracker.
Thank you.
Just had a question around how we build on the progress that's been talked about today, especially thinking towards COP30. And what are the real priorities for over the next year? What are you hoping for from COP30?
To Gonzalo, please.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nick. Well, all of this agenda, when it comes to the food and agriculture system transformation call to action, and of course the UAE Declaration of Food and Agriculture, is designed to, let's say, land properly with countries enhancing their NDCs at COP30 in Brazil, right? On the other side, probably this agenda is contributing to one of the most important outcomes at this point of G20, when food and poverty is the #1 priority being set. So we can see how all of what we're doing is elevating that topic as well. But let me refer to something that we're launching today that is a best expression of how we're accelerating towards COP30 in Belém, and hoping that the Brazilian government will prioritize this topic. So today, on Food and Agriculture and Water Day, we're launching a report. It's called Transforming Food System for People, Nature and Climate, Food System Call to Action, Real World Action and Progress, which is showing that action is happening nowadays worldwide, and it's providing a set of very illustrative examples across the food system call to action, the 10 priority actions and 4 principles, underscoring that food system transformation is possible and it's already happening. So I encourage all of you to take a look on that and see how much we're showing, not only to the global community what is happening, but also making that visible for countries to incorporate that in their NDCs and be one of the most important outcomes of COP30 next year in Belém.
Next question, please. Last word, perhaps, from Proskovia.
Yeah, my last word is just a call to action, but the action is for the global north and also the heads of states, that we need to walk the talk, we need to put the money where it's needed. And we need transparent solutions, but at the same time, we need to be at the table for meaningful discussion. Thank you.
And we wish to be at your side. Thank you very much indeed. Last word, Owen.
Yes, I think from a company perspective, we want to see more people stepping up. We want to see an ambitious agreement here at COP29, a focus on food moving forwards, and that needs to include policy and money going to those who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you. And to Lucy, please.
I think I would like to say that actually we all have a role to play in this. It's not just governments, it's not just businesses, it's not just farmers, it's all of us. We make 3 decisions a day, or a lot of us make 3 decisions a day on what to eat. Those decisions can have an impact on our planet. So I'd like you all to reflect on that during Food Day, and come and visit us at B21 at the Action on Food Hub if you want to find out more.
Thank you very much. We invite you all to join this remarkable movement towards sustainable food systems within the midst of climate change and other stresses, putting farmers at the centre, but it involves everybody. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and thanks to those who brought us together for all of this, who are quietly sitting in the back, but as you all know, they do such a lot of work. Thanks.